Welcome, friends, to today's journey into the heart of Stoic wisdom. I'm your guide on this path, a fellow traveler seeking clarity, resilience, and inner strength. Picture yourself tuning into a late-night radio show or settling in for a quiet podcast session. The world outside may be noisy, filled with the clatter of arguments and the whispers of those who would sway our minds. Today, we pause, we breathe, we anchor ourselves in reason. Why focus on deception? Because, as Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if someone can show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. For I seek the truth. Yet not every voice that challenges us offers truth. Some play with our fears, our desires, or our very sense of self. They ask questions seemingly innocent, even carrying that aim not to uncover truth, but to manipulate. Imagine a conversation where, beneath the surface of concern, there lies a hidden agenda. Maybe it's to sell you something, to influence your opinion, or simply to distract you from your values. How do we recognize these subtle tactics? How do we stand firm, guided by Stoic principles, in the face of misleading inquiries? Over the next few minutes, we'll explore 5 questions deceivers use, questions that can twist your mind. If you're not vigilant, we'll examine each one through the lens of Stoic philosophy, learning to respond with calm, clarity, and conviction. Ready? Let's begin. 1. Are you sure you can handle this? When someone leans in and asks, "Are you sure you can handle this?" it often arrives wrapped in the velvet of concern. Yet beneath that softness lurks a needle of doubt. This question is not merely about capacity. It is an invitation to doubt yourself, to focus on what you lack rather than on what you can cultivate. A master manipulator knows that, by planting a single seed of uncertainty, they can divert your energy from preparation and purpose into a whirlwind of self-scrutiny. The Stoics understood this tactic well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself and us that our only true impediment is the judgment we impose upon events, not the events themselves. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have, the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, the question, "Can you handle this?" only has power if you grant it power. But how do we refuse to grant that power? First, by reframing the question. Instead of asking, "Can I?" we ask, "How will I?" The shift in phrasing transports us from the realm of self-doubt into the arena of action. We move from paralysis, "I might fail," to planning, "I will gather resources. I will divide this task into clear steps. I will seek counsel from those who have walked this path before me." In the words of Seneca, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. When we focus on concrete preparations instead of hypothetical shortcomings, we reclaim our agency. This transformation requires emotional vigilance. A fleeting pang of anxiety may surface when the question is posed. Acknowledge it. Breathe into it. Remember Epictetus' counsel: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Feel the flutter of nerves not as proof of unworthiness, but as a signal of something you care about, a signal to prepare more mindfully, to steel your resolve more deliberately. Second, we ground ourselves in past victories. Reflect on moments when you overcame adversity, perhaps a challenging conversation with a friend, a complex project at work, or a personal trial you navigated with grace. By recalling these successes, you remind your mind that capability is not born from perfection, but from perseverance. Marcus Aurelius himself faced the enormous burdens of empire, betrayal, and personal loss, yet he continued to write, to lead, to seek virtue. When doubt knocked on his door, he answered with action. Third, cultivate a daily practice of small challenges. The Stoics believed in voluntary discomfort, embracing minor hardships, so that when greater trials arrive, we stand ready. Whether you choose a cold plunge in the morning, a digital detox for an hour each day, or a brief fast, these small acts of fortitude strengthen your inner citadel. When the real test comes, you'll recognize it for what it is: another ordered exercise in self-mastery. Finally, remember the Stoic dichotomy of control. You cannot control every outcome, your audience's reaction, the market's fluctuations, or another person's whims, but you can control the clarity of your intention, the integrity of your preparation, and the steadiness of your mind. When asked, Are you sure you can handle this? Your answer need not be a brash yes, nor a timid I don't know. It can simply be, I am doing what is within my power. I will meet each moment with reason, courage, and composure. In that simple declaration, you reclaim the narrative. You transform the manipulative question into an affirmation of Stoic will. You illuminate your inner fortress against the eroding tides of doubt. And in doing so, you remind yourself and all who listen that true strength rises not from bluster, but from quiet, steadfast resolve. 2. Don't you care about this cause when someone leans in, earnest concern in their eyes, and asks, don't you care about climate change, about ending poverty, about justice for the marginalized? It can feel like a moral imperative. Beneath that earnestness, however, often lies a question meant to corner you, to tie your identity to their agenda, to weaponize your compassion. They imply, if you truly care, you will act according to my prescription. If you hesitate, you are heartless, indifferent, or worse, complicit. This tactic works because we Stoics believe in the inherent value of virtue. We care deeply about justice, wisdom, courage, and temperance. Yet true Stoic care springs from reasoned judgment, not from demands or guilt. Epictetus warns that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. When someone questions our care, they are inviting an emotional judgment, guilt, rather than a rational assessment. What can I do? And is this the best use of my time and energy? First, pause and acknowledge your genuine concern. Compassion is a valid response to suffering. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, let your mind be still, and when it has steadied itself, move forward. In that stillness, recognize your empathy as a precious asset, not a vulnerability to be exploited. Say to yourself, I do care. I care deeply. This affirmation grounds you in authenticity, diffusing the implied accusation. Second, examine your values through the lens of Stoic priorities. Seneca reminds us that true happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future. If you care about a cause, the Stoic path is to act by your reasoned judgment of what is within your power. You cannot single-handedly solve global poverty, but you can donate time or resources, support effective organizations, or educate others. Let your actions spring from your hierarchy of values, family, community, wisdom, and so on. Third, recognize the manipulator's gambit. They seek to redirect your focus from the substance of their argument to your emotional response. When asked, don't you care? You can respond with calm curiosity. What specific actions do you believe are most effective? How have you evaluated the impact of those actions? This shift places the burden back on the questioner. It transforms the exchange from emotional coercion into a rational dialogue about means and ends. Emotionally, this question may stir guilt, a heavy, oppressive sensation. Allow yourself to feel it, but don't dwell on it. Epictetus taught that we should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is, or is not, in my control? Guilt over systemic injustices is not entirely in your control. Your thoughtful responses channel that initial pang into disciplined action, volunteering, writing to policymakers, or engaging in mindful consumption. Fourth, cultivate compassion tempered by wisdom. Stoic care is not indiscriminate sympathy that drains your resources. It is deliberate action guided by reason. Seneca advised, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Extend kindness where it is most needed and where it can do the most good, without sacrificing your stability. Boundaries protect your inner citadel, ensuring that your capacity to help remains sustainable and resilient. Finally, revisit the Stoic dichotomy of control. You cannot control the world's suffering, but you can control your own choices, how you allocate your time, how you express your care, and how you preserve your mental tranquility. When faced with don't you care, answer silently or aloud, I care about what I can influence, and I will devote my effort there. In this way, you honor both your compassion and your reason. You transform an emotional indictment into an affirmation of Stoic purpose, acting virtuously within the realm of your power. You demonstrate that true care is not measured by guilt or by the volume of your rhetoric, but by the clarity of your intentions and the effectiveness of your actions. When you next encounter the challenge, don't you care about this cause? Let your steady mind reply, I do care. I care enough to act wisely. In that moment, you reclaim your agency, your peace, and your integrity, proving that a Stoic's care is both deep and discerning. 3. Why don't you trust me? There are few questions more disarming than, why don't you trust me? Trust is the fragile bridge upon which every meaningful relationship stands, whether personal, professional, or political. When someone plants that question in your mind, they aim to shake your footing, injecting insecurity, doubt, even guilt. You may find your heart quicken, your voice catch, but the Stoics teach us that trust, like all virtues, must be earned, not simply granted. Let us begin with Epictetus' timeless counsel. Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. Applied here, it means we accept that others may not automatically deserve our confidence. We wish for honesty, transparency, integrity, and when those prerequisites are absent, we are justified in withholding trust without rancor. Imagine a friend or colleague leaning forward, eyes earnest, voice soft. Why don't you trust me? In that moment, the question is not an invitation to honest dialogue, but a challenge and emotional gambit designed to make you feel guilt for your caution. Why? Because true confidence in another requires evidence, consistency between words and actions, the alignment of promises and follow-through, the integrity of character displayed over time. Marcus Aurelius himself grappled with the reliability of those around him. He wrote, "People exist for the sake of each other. Teach them then or bear with them." He did not advocate blind faith. Instead, he urged us to instruct when possible and to practice patience when necessary. If you doubt someone's trustworthiness, reflect on whether guidance or clear communication might bridge the gap. Ask yourself, have I shared my concerns openly? Have I given evidence of my expectations? If not, begin there. Yet if you have spoken your mind and witnessed repeated disregard, broken promises, or evasive answers, then your caution is not cynicism. It is reasoned self-protection. Seneca reminds us, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Those who value your well-being will respond to transparency with transparency. They will not weaponize your inquiries into emotional blackmail. Emotionally, feeling untrusted can cut deep. You may sense a tightening in your chest, a surge of frustration or shame. When this happens, breathe into the discomfort. Recall Epictetus' teaching. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Recognize the sting as an invitation to examine your boundaries, not as proof of unworthiness. Your value does not lie in universal acceptance, but in the integrity with which you navigate relationships. When the question arises, you need not reply with defensiveness or offense. Instead, transform the moment into a Stoic exercise in rational exchange. Gently ask, what actions or evidence would earn your trust in me? Then, pivot, and what would earn my trust in you? By framing trust as mutual, you shift from a power play to a collaborative search for integrity. If the other person responds with specific, reasonable proposals, transparency in decisions, consistent follow-through, open communication, then you can rebuild the bridge brick by brick. If, however, they recoil or double down on vague assurances, you just have to believe me. You glimpse the very sign of untrustworthiness, a refusal to be held accountable by reason. Deep within, you maintain a quiet citadel of inner calm. You accept that not everyone seeks the same standards of integrity you hold dear. You do not shrink or retreat. You simply choose where to place your confidence. You remember Marcus Aurelius' words, "The best answer to anger is silence." In this context, the best answer to emotional pressure is reasoned silence, allowing time for actions to speak louder than words. In the end, trust is a garden to be cultivated with care, seeds planted through small acts of reliability, watered with honesty, and pruned of false promises. When asked, "Why don't you trust me?" let your steady mind reply, "Because trust is built, not given. Show me through your deeds, and my faith will follow." In that measured response, you stand firm in your principles, honoring both your integrity and the potential for another to meet you in truth. You transform manipulation into an invitation for accountability, and in doing so, you embody the Stoic ideal, unwavering in calm, relentless in clarity, and always guided by reason. For Would you want to be wrong about this? Few rhetorical traps are as insidious as the question, would you want to be wrong about this? On the surface, it appeals to our natural aversion to error. Yet beneath that polite veneer lies a threat. Admit you might be wrong, and you concede weakness. Refuse, and you appear stubborn. This question seeks to weaponize our fear of embarrassment, to gamble our reputation against our convictions. The Stoics, however, embrace the possibility of error as a pathway to truth. Marcus Aurelius counseled himself, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? He recognized that self-scrutiny precedes judgment of others. Translated here, when asked whether you'd rather be wrong, you need not recoil in shame. Instead, you welcome the mirror that error holds up to your understanding. First, let us examine why the question stings. Humans crave consistency. We want our beliefs to align seamlessly with our identity. Admitting error can feel like tearing a piece from that identity, exposing us as unreliable. A master manipulator leverages this instinct, framing the very admission of doubt as a personal failure. They imply, confess your mistake, and you lose respect. Cling to your belief, and you risk arrogance. But the Stoic sage stands apart. Epictetus taught, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. He saw that the fear of appearing ignorant often prevents true learning. In that spirit, consider the question, would you want to be wrong? Not as an accusation, but as an invitation to humility, to inquiry, to progress. Your response need not be a defensive no. It can be a reflective, if evidence shows I'm mistaken, I welcome correction. My aim is understanding, not vindication. Second, honor the process of inquiry over the comfort of certainty. Seneca declared, true happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future. Likewise, true wisdom relishes the unfolding of truth, wherever it may lead. When you prioritize the journey of discovery, the prospect of being wrong no longer terrifies you. You recognize that each misstep refines your map, clarifies your compass, and guides you toward firmer ground. Emotionally, you may feel a tightening in your chest when posed with the question. Perhaps your mind races with past debates you've lost or harsh criticisms you've endured. Breathe into that tension. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Use that strength to steady your thoughts. Acknowledge the discomfort, then let it pass as you refocus on the facts at hand. Third, cultivate the practice of preemptive doubt. Before cementing any belief, ask yourself, what would convince me otherwise? This Stoic exercise, akin to a mental fire drill, prepares you for real-world challenges. When you've already mapped out the evidence that would sway you, no external question can catch you off guard. You've internalized the metrics of truth, and your convictions stand on bedrock rather than shifting sand. When the manipulator asks, would you want to be wrong? Answer calmly, yes, if I'm wrong, I'll amend my view. What would you propose as evidence? By inviting them to state their proof, you turn their weapon into a tool for constructive dialogue. If they respond with reasoned arguments and verifiable data, your mind remains open. If they falter, you've revealed the hollowness of their challenge. Finally, remember the Stoic dichotomy of control. You cannot control whether you are right or wrong in every judgment. That depends on facts, contexts, and interpretations. But you can control your willingness to revise your stance in light of new information. As Epictetus said, it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By reframing the fear of error as a neutral event you can manage, you disarm the manipulator's ploy. In this way, you transform would you want to be wrong from a gauntlet thrown at your feet into a bridge toward deeper understanding. You demonstrate that your allegiance is to truth, not to unyielding pride, and in doing so, you embody the Stoic ideal, steadfast and calm, unafraid of self-correction, and always guided by reason's steady light. 5. Have you thought about what others will say? There's a question that slips into conversations like a shadow at dusk. Have you thought about what others will say? Its soft cadence belies a powerful undercurrent and appeal to social fear. We're hardwired to care about reputation. We instinctively crave belonging. When this question arises, It tugs at our desire for approval, whispering that our choices exist not for our flourishing, but for the applause or avoidance of judgment from unseen crowds. The Stoics confronted this human frailty head-on. Marcus Aurelius exhorted himself, constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul. In other words, he reminded himself that the opinions of random individuals, scattered like stars across the sky, hold no sway over the singular rational soul you are. Your integrity, your purpose, your inner well-being, these are not subject to popular vote. Yet the pang of imagined gossip can tighten the chest. You picture half-heard whispers, raised eyebrows, the swift passing of judgment that may never materialize. Seneca offers us solace. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. More pain lies in anticipating rumor than in the few words that might be spoken. Recognize that most critics are preoccupied with their own lives, not yours, and that their fleeting judgments rarely leave lasting scars. When someone poses the question, they intend to nudge you toward conformity. They suggest your path is risky, even selfish, if it too visibly departs from the herd. But Stoic freedom is rooted in the courage to act on principle rather than on popular whim. Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I aspire to be? One driven by the applause of others, or one guided by inner excellence? Emotionally, the fear of social judgment can manifest as a cold flutter in the stomach or a tightness at the throat. When you feel it, pause, breathe deeply, anchoring your attention in your body rather than the swirling what-ifs in your mind. Recall that external things, opinions, rumors, fleeting notices are indifferent to your true self. They belong to the realm outside your control. What belongs to you is your reasoned choice, your actions, and your reactions. To counter this deceptive question, reframe it for yourself. Have I thought about what I will say to myself afterward? Let your inner dialogue focus on your standards. If you honor your values, compassion, integrity, courage, you will meet your judgment with calm satisfaction, regardless of others' chatter. Marcus Aurelius affirmed, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. In other words, let your conduct stand on its own, independent of external validation. Moreover, consider the community you truly serve. A Stoic sees humanity as a single city, each person a citizen with duties and rights. When you act in alignment with common decency, helping where you can, speaking truth, practicing kindness, you contribute to the well-being of that larger community. If gossip arises, it is the responsibility of those gossips, not you. Your duty remains to act virtuously, without note of applause. Finally, transform the question into an opportunity for teaching. If someone warns, have you thought about what others will say? Respond with measured kindness. I have, and I choose to honor my reason over rumor. If you have concerns about my actions, I welcome a direct conversation. By doing so, you model the Stoic ideal, treating others with respect, standing firm in your judgment, and inviting honesty rather than fear. In sum, the fear of others' opinions can feel overwhelming, but it is an external current you need not let sweep you away. Root yourself in inner values, recall the Stoic dichotomy of control, and let your actions reflect the unshakable integrity of your rational soul. When you answer yourself and the world with calm conviction, you free your mind from the petty anxieties of social chatter and rise into the clear air of Stoic serenity. Dear listener, you've traveled through the landscapes of doubt and deception, guided by the steady torch of Stoic wisdom. You've seen how common questions can become snares, how every manipulator seeks to redirect your gaze from inner truth to external pressures. Now, what will you do with this knowledge? Tomorrow, when you encounter a question wrapped in false concern, recall this discussion. Feel the calm certainty in your chest as you ask, what truly matters here? Then, let your reason speak. Take a moment now, right where you are, to breathe deeply. Offer gratitude for your mind, capable of discernment. Promise yourself to practice this clarity daily, at work, in your relationships, and the marketplace of ideas. If you found value in this conversation, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe, so that together we may build a community anchored in reason and resilience. Leave a comment. Which question resonated most with you? How will you apply these Stoic strategies in your life? Thank you for listening. May you walk forward with a tranquil heart and an undaunted spirit. Until next time, stay strong, stay steadfast, and let your inner citadel remain unshaken.